Director Matt Reeves was on hand at today's DC FanDome Hall of Heroes virtual event, to deliver the first look at his upcoming Dark Knight reboot film The Batman. Fans were dazzled by the new footage, the first since a costume test video Reeves made public months ago, and a few still images of the film's star Robert Pattinson in the Bat costume standing beside the Batmobile. The Batman will reboot the Batman live-action cinematic franchise next year when it releases, and will not be set in the same world as any previous DC movies so far. Whether or not other superheroes already exist somewhere within the new world of this film remains to be seen, but certainly not any iterations we've seen so far. Before we go any further, check out the first footage reveal from the Batman. This is a second-year Batman, in a world where many of the so-called freak villains have already established themselves in Gotham City, or are in the process of doing so. It reminds me of the Nolanverse, if it were pushed closer to the line between realism and more fantastical elements, something many of us long to see if the world of Nolan's Batman had continued for more sequels. The noir inspiration and aesthetic seep off every image in this footage, a dark detective tale in the best tradition of the most iconic stories about these characters, not only Batman himself, but also his villains. I continue to get strong vibes reminiscent of comic book stories including Batman, Year Zero, The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and even touches of Batman, Year One. Reeves himself specifically singled out Darwyn Cooke's comic book story Ego as a big influence for Bruce's arc and portrayal. The violence and action are intense, grounded, and once again go beyond what I was hopeful we'd get to see. This is Batman in his prime, but not just as a fighter, he's also a detective, and those noir elements come through in the crime story we see shaping up for the Batman as well. Reeves is building a brand new corner of the DC universe, with a Batman in a world we've not seen on film before and which isn't shared by any of the other existing DC superhero film franchises. Reeves is expanding that Bat world and the characters who reside within it, for a return to a more grounded-in-realism approach to the Caped Crusader. This still exists within the larger DC multiverse in which all of DC projects technically exist, so the potential for crossover with the other films remains. However, I strongly suspect that despite the potential for this new Batman to appear alongside Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and other existing DCEU on-screen heroes, I think Reeves' world will remain separate while the rest of the DCEU plays out. That way, once those franchises come to their conclusions, as will inevitably happen after a few more sequels, Batman's world can serve as the foundation for a new fully rebooted DCEU.